Hey guys, I know I can't be there today, but I still wanted to share this information with you. We're going to have our test next Thursday, so be ready for that. As you can see on the whiteboard to the side, that is that announcement. Notebooks are also going to be due. In addition, I need you guys to make sure you bring your textbooks tomorrow. Okay, we're going to start off with this learning goal from Unit 2. I'll read it to you guys. Explain how the values and thinking during the French Revolution led France to develop from a constitutional monarchy to democratic despotism to the Napoleonic Empire. Okay, so yesterday when we did our role play, we did see that we had a constitutional monarchy and we got rid of it. But what actually happened in terms of in France? Okay, we're going to take a look at some of those events. So in the revolution, we remember that the royal family is going to be convicted for being traitors, right, to France, and so eventually those of the National Assembly are going to get rid of their old government and they're going to bring reform, means changes, and so this revolution is getting built up even more, and they're going to be creating the National Convention. So what's the difference between the National Assembly and the National Convention? Essentially, it's the same thing in terms of the purpose of having a government that's in control. They have a different name because they have different leadership that's involved, and the structure is a little bit different too. What's important is that France becomes a republic, and so they no longer have a king in their government. The king has no power. Okay, so going from the old medieval French flag, we now have what we have the modern flag today. Okay, so copy down this stuff that you see in red. Okay, here is the king's family, right, held captive, and then finally the king will be executed by guillotine along with his wife. And as you can see here, like all the army and citizens are stand watching. Okay, all right. So the king is tried for treason and executed in 1793 in January. And then there's this new group, right? The Committee of Public Safety is going to be established where we have our character Robespierre, right, that you guys met yesterday. He's going to be leading it with 12 other guys, and they are trying to keep the public safe, right? And so we said that, you know what, we want to change France, we want to bring a revolution, and anyone that's against it is a traitor, and we're trying to find those traitors, and that's what we did yesterday. So just as a recap and to review on that, so the Reign of Terror is what lasts for about a year, and that's the time where France experienced such a radical type of revolution where we're really guessing, was it for the better or for worse? I mean, we have some changes in who is the king and the leadership, but is our country even better? And many of us said, probably not. Okay. All right, so this is what Robespierre looks like, and that is his execution tool. And as we said, 40,000 would be killed by guillotine. Okay, here's a political cartoon for you guys to just look at. You have Queen Marie Antoinette under the guillotine, and at the bottom the caption says, "You can just forget about the cake." Very funny. All right. So over time, the revolution that's happening in France is going to lose support, and because there's many people that have lost certain things or did not fulfill their expectations, and they're beginning to think that, is this revolution even going to be successful? I mean, we have had a lot of changes, but nothing long term, nothing stable. Okay, so a few things you need to understand was that the National Assembly got rid of the lands owned by the church, and obviously the clergy is not satisfied. The financial crisis was never solved, right? The fact that even simple things like bread was still not affordable to the mass public, and it remained high, and it was very hard for people to survive on that. Okay. Eventually, people got sick of Robespierre and saying that with 40,000 French citizens dead, I think you're hurting our country more than helping, and we all agreed about that, Robespierre. And so they actually went against and betrayed Robespierre and kicked him out, and eventually he would be executed as well. Okay. Finally, you have the end of the Reign of Terror that comes in 1793 to 1794, and now we're going to be introduced to a new government, which we're going to call democratic despotism. Okay. Now, democratic we understand, right? We believe that democratic means that it's a rule by the people, right? But despotism, it's the complete control under one person, and it sounds a lot like a tyranny. Well, how does that work together? Okay, well, coming out of the end of Reign of Terror, France says, you know what, we need to have a new constitution. So from 1795 to 1799, they said, you know what, our government's going to have both an executive branch and a legislative branch. And essentially, it's going to be two houses, bicameral, in the legislative branch, right? You're going to have your upper house and your lower house. A lot like, like we said, our Congress, and our Senate and House of Representatives, right? So that's their legislator. They're going to make the laws. They're going to be elected. They're going to have representatives in the legislature. But the executive branch is going to have five guys, not burger and fries, okay, five guys that are going to make up what we call the directory. Okay, so the time from 1795 to 1799 is the directory that is in charge, and these are the guys that are kind of like working and sharing power together. Now, the thing is, they call it democratic despotism is because though there was a democracy and system and how it looked like, how they ruled was terrible. Okay, so they only put the upper middle class in power. Okay, and so everyone else that was not in the middle class, that's not in the upper middle class, if they're in the lower class or just in the regular middle class, they didn't have any laws that protected them or supported them. And so that's why they call it a despotism, because they were only helping themselves. Okay, they were known to be extremely corrupt and constantly would be stealing money from the country. Now, let's compare this. Okay, if we were to look at King Louis XVI, Robespierre, and now the Directory, can we say that the country of France is doing better? Isn't that what a revolution is about? It's about improving itself as a country. And so this is something that is very backwards in saying that the revolution is going forward, but the country is not necessarily seeing the progress that they're asking for. Okay, so once again, they established a new constitution in 1795, and this will bring more government structure, but in the end, it's not helping France. Okay. Lastly, coming from democratic despotism, as the learning goal says, there's going to be a guy named Napoleon. Okay, and we're going to look at who this guy is, where does he come from, and he's going to actually overthrow the Directory.